Sports Rap Podcast is the group. You can get us live there. I know you're tuned in, so you can give us your comments. We can leave them there now or later, and we'll get to them and try and get to read some. Also, Sports Rap has openings for interviews. If you have a sports related business, you're a sports company, you do something in sports, or you do something with the youth, you can book your spot with us on an interview right here in studio on Heat 100 Radio on the Sports Rap Podcast. So for that, just DM me, message me in the group at Sports Rap _D. Sports Rap Podcast is the group. You can message me or DM there, and then I will give you email information and give you more information and more details on how you can book your interview and be part of the Sports Rap Podcast. Or if you have a business and you would like to sponsor the Sports Rap Podcast, we can also talk about that. Same way. DM on Instagram, message on Facebook, and I'll give you the email right now. sportsrap@yahoo.com is the email where you can obtain more information and more detail on how you can go about either being here for an interview or becoming a sponsor of the Sports Rap Podcast. So we're going to move on, and we know it's April. Well, it's May now. So we had the NFL draft, which is usually one of the biggest look forward to moments in sports. So we've had that. So now we just have to wait until training camp. Schedule's coming out soon, and we'll definitely give you the what have yous on that. And moving into basketball, we have basically a 3-team race for the number 1 seed in the East.
For the East,
Sixers are right now currently in first place. Milwaukee is in 3rd place, and the Brooklyn Nets are in 2nd place. Brooklyn Nets took a loss to the Milwaukee Bucks, so shout out to the Milwaukee Bucks for beating them yesterday. Sixers almost gave one away yesterday, but they ultimately went into overtime and toughed it out and snuck out of San Antonio with the 2-point win there, putting them in first place. So their schedule, again, like we mentioned last week, is a lot favorable to the Philadelphia 76ers. Most of the teams that they will play are pretty much out of the playoff race. Starting with tonight, the Chicago Bulls are out, eliminated from playoff contention. But it's imperative that the Sixers continue to win and beat these teams. Because, perfect example, last night's game, it showed that even though, the Spurs are fighting for the 10th spot. They're somewhere around there, so they have something to fight for. The other teams really don't have anything to play for, but it's imperative that the Sixers win because Milwaukee is doing some things right now. I'm still not 100% sold on them as far as once they get into the playoffs, but they have made some key additions in PJ Tucker and Drew Holiday, so that may help them some. So it's imperative that the Sixers stay within that 1 seed, and they have to handle their business. They have to win. So teams like the Spurs and the Bulls, they've got Orlando twice coming up. They've got Houston coming up. Teams that they should beat, they need to beat. And our starters have to continue to play. So that means the young pieces, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the young pieces in a second. They have to get this viable playing time. That way you don't have to go into the alleged load management with your starters. You can rest them with the starters. You can rest them with the bench playing in these games that you can blow out these teams. Like the most recent 3 games prior to last night, they had won by a total of 97 points. So they were all blowouts. So the starters had a lot of time to rest late in those games. And again, the bench is picking up some very, very viable playing time. Also, it is giving George Hill time to get his comfortability level up with the team and with the system and with the terminology of the coaching staff and their system. So that's a beautiful thing for the Sixers. And I think ultimately they may end up in that number 1 seed, which would be the best thing for them, because then that means they probably wouldn't see Milwaukee or Brooklyn until the conference finals. The Sixers definitely have the potential to be in that spot, and they just have to, like I said, take care of business and get things done.
As a fan, you want them to have that?
I want them to have
the number
one seed. I think they can get the number one seed,
right?
Because although Milwaukee beat us 3 times and Milwaukee
right.
has the tiebreaker against us, they're still chasing. And again, like I said, the Sixers' schedule is very, very favorable
right.
to them. But they've got to take care of business. We can't have the relapse like we had last night
right.
against San Antonio. And again, San Antonio does have something to play for.
Yeah.
They could possibly end up in that play-in tournament.
Yeah, they're playing
so,
the ball too.
You know, I've always said this about the Spurs. Since I've been doing this podcast for the past 7 years and even prior to it, they always find a way to get in, no matter what kind of season they're having.
Right.
That organization is like one of the stellar organizations in the NBA.
Yeah.
One of the most respected or highly respected
right.
coaches in the NBA, and they always find a way to make some noise and get in the playoffs at the end of the season.
Right.
So the Sixers, with their most recent wins, like I said, out of the last 4 games, 3 of them they had a win total of 97 points.
Right.
There again, they were blowouts. So these young players, this young core, has had opportunities to get valuable minutes that will help in the playoffs.
Right.
Because we all know the playoffs is a totally different animal. It's a brand new season, but it's a different atmosphere, and like we say, it's a different animal. So their young core that is developing, and I've got a couple names here that I'm going to talk a little bit about before I get into some other things. And one of the biggest successes of the young people is, I believe, is Shake Milton. I've said this from the beginning of the season, that there's finally a coaching staff and a head coach that is paying full attention to the skill set of Shake Milton.
I like Shake Milton.
And has him in the right role right now.
You think he should start there?
The 6th man? No, I don't believe he's a starter.
I like him.
As of yet in the NBA.
Eventually.
But what he's been showing me, except for the little block that he was in for part of the season, for the most part, the overall body of work is showing me that he could be a very good bench player and could eventually get into becoming a starting guard.
Right.
I think because of his adaptness to get to the basket off the dribble is what helps him a lot. His size helps him a lot. And being coached by Larry Brown at SMU was a big help to him. And like I said, he now has a coach and a coaching staff that are paying 1,000% to his skill set and his talent level, and have him in the right position where he is succeeding in the 6-man position.
Right.
And you see how valuable he is, because there have been a lot of games where he was on the court to close out a lot of those games.
Right.
So they have seen the talent level of him, and they've seen how he's grown, and they've put him in the right position to continue to be successful.
Right.
The second one, Furkan Korkmaz, who has improved. There may be some people that would argue with me and say that he's still the same. I see him utilizing a little bit more of a basketball IQ right now, where he has a pretty good pump fake that can get him, the pump fake and the one dribble to the side to get that 3-pointer off, or get that foul on that defensive player to get those 3 foul shots, to get those 3 points. He's also been doing a little bit more off the dribble now, and looks like he's taken some time to begin to focus on the defensive end of the ball.
Right.
So he's not as much as a liability as he has been in the past couple of years. He is an unrestricted free agent, I believe, at the end of the season, but he has since, and within the most recent couple of days, put out there that he would like to remain here with the Sixers, comfortability level, and just being here and getting the shot here and wanting to stay in this organization, because he probably sees what could be within the next couple years, starting with this year.
Right.
Next up is Matisse Ivan. We all know about his offensive woes. And the thing that I like about this is he comes in and he's ready to play defense right from the start. He's on go, ready to play defense. The offense can be taught. It is very, very hard to teach, almost nearly impossible to teach defense. On the defensive end, it's a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of pride, and he has that. He shows that. Arguably in the running for Defensive Player of the Year this year. So that's another thing that is a help for them, and that will help in the postseason, especially with the defensive skill set of Joel and Ben. With a third wing defender, it's going to make it tough for teams to get points and get buckets, where they would have to possibly change their scheme and things of that nature. So I think that's going to help. And like I said, the offense can be taught. You know, you can put him in situations where he won't have to do much to get points, which they do now. He does need to work on that jump shot. I agree with a lot of people there. But like I said, that can come. But his defensive prowess is something that is definitely going to be needed in the playoffs. It's definitely something that's rare for a player only in his second year in the NBA, where his defensive level is right now. It's very rare that you get that in that young of a player. Tyrese Maxey, the point guard from Kentucky, who has a lot of the tools offensively of the small guard. He does get a little reluctant to shoot the three, but he can drive to the basket and finish. He has that floater that you need as a small guard in the NBA.
Get to that line.
And he has the confidence to be out there and play. Again, different coaching staff, which is beneficial for him. He's got two guys that have played in the NBA. One is a two-time champion. The other one was no slouch himself. I'm speaking of Sam Cassell and Doc Rivers, the head coach and the associate head coach, who were point guards in this league, who can teach him along the way. And again, the things that he needs can be taught. The defense for him, I think it's just going to be a matter of him catching up with the speed of the NBA game and getting comfortable with the speed of the NBA game and the NBA guards. So I think that will come. And then there's Isaiah Joe, who is a shooter and who showed that he can shoot. He can be a shooter in the NBA. Unfortunately, some of the other younger guys are playing better than him, so his minutes have been pretty limited. But I think he could be another piece in the future that could help out. A little undersized, he will need to pick up some weight, get a little stronger, and do some things on the defensive end, work on his defense. But I also think he could be some help down the stretch. Finally, Paul B-Ball Reed, the reigning MVP of the G League. Surprisingly, there has to be, or the coaching staff now, I think, has to find a way to get him some more minutes in these next 8-9 games, I think, that are remaining, to give him a possibility to play a little bit in the playoffs. And we all know, usually when you get to the playoffs, your rotation gets cut a little bit short than normal. But the experience that these guys are getting now will help, because they may be able to be bumped up on different days into that rotation, depending on how teams are playing, what team you're playing, and what guys are out there doing. So there may be some room for him in there. But I think also in the long run, definitely a quality piece that could help the Sixers down the stretch. So we move, like I said, the Sixers are right now currently in the #1 seed. And I didn't write this down, but Frank's not going to like me in a few minutes, because I mentioned this when Anthony Davis first got injured.
Right.
And I also brought it back up when LeBron got injured.
He got a little tweak again.
And LeBron has returned. They both have returned. But one of the things I mentioned, and just analyzing basketball and the way things were beginning to change and shape up in the West,
right.
I said, what if the Lakers got to a point where they would end up in the play-in tournament?
Right.
Right now, as I look this morning,
yeah.
they currently sit at number 7
yeah.
in the West.
The
started out the season between 2 and 3.
Right.
They had some injuries. Players have returned.
Right.
But during that time that those guys were out, the fort was not held up as sturdy as it could have been, or as it should have been.
They tried.
And right now, they're currently sitting looking at the 7th seed. Which leads me also to my next point, where I saw also this morning that LeBron James now currently has an issue with the play-in tournament. So could that be because you guys have fell into that spot now?
Maybe.
And you don't know how to handle that, coming off of being the reigning NBA champions? So again, just to refresh your memory, folks, the NBA has instituted a new playoff policy. So it's been in since the beginning of the season. So everyone involved knew it was coming.
Right.
There was not a lot of talk about it from players prior to this moment, especially not LeBron James.
Right.
Now, people, just so you understand, what I'm giving you now are my thoughts and my opinions only, and I am not being a LeBron basher. I'm just giving you information, calling a spade, and I'm asking, what is the reason now that he has an issue with this play-in tournament, and allegedly has stated that he wants the person, or he allegedly stated that the person that created it should be fired. So here's again how this playoff tournament is going to go. Teams 1 through 6 in each conference are in. They've expanded 7, 8, 9, and 10. So you know it's only 8 teams that make the NBA playoffs. So you got 7, 8, 9, and 10. 4 teams who will have a play-in tournament.
Home game.
The way it's set up, 7 and 8 will play 1 game for the 7th seed. Okay? 9 and 10 will play. The loser of the 7-8 seed game will play the winner of the 9-10 seed game to get the 8th spot.
Right.
So,
a little confusing, huh?
To me, it's not confusing to me.
Right.
The only thing I don't like is the fact that there's going to be one team that's going to end up playing twice.
Yeah, true. You'll be tired.
So only one team is going to end up playing twice. So if I were doing it, I think that I would go 7 and 8 will play for the 7th seed, and 9 and 10 will play for the 8th seed.
Right.
Just that simple. That's the way I would do it. But that's not, I'm just me. Like I said, I'm just me. I'm just here. And I'm not part of the NBA. But I mentioned this a while back.
Right.
And it seems like there's an issue with it because now the Lakers may end up having to play in that play-in tournament.
Right.
And
they said a lot of people
there's a team that's in the 8th seed
so-called
that could give them a run for their money.
But they, real quick, you heard what they said? They said a lot of teams don't want to play them. If they in the 6th, 7th, 8th seed, the Lakers. If they fully strength.
They're fully strength now.
Yeah, but I'm saying like in the play-in tournament, maybe. But
no, I think it's the other way around.
Let's say for example, here's the thing. Let's say they the 7th seed.
I think it's the other way around. I think Portland is around in that 8th seed, and I don't think the Lakers want to play Portland.
You're probably so, but I'm saying most teams in the West don't want to play them. If they play AD and LeBron, 80%, 90% of LeBron James.
I don't agree with that right now.
That's what ESPN. That's what
I don't agree with that right now
because they
fell from 3rd
Right.
when the guys were healthy, when their key guys were healthy.
Right.
Their key guys went out.
Yeah.
They hovered for a little bit around 4 or 5.
Yeah. I'm a Lakers. I don't think they're going to peak, but
now they're down to 7. So they're basically, if the season ended today, they would be in the play-in tournament. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, but they said they will not. A lot of teams don't want to meet them in the first round.
I don't think, and I think that
because they play on house money.
That could be some of the issue with LeBron being upset with it now.
Yeah. Because
I think it's Portland. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's Portland that's right behind them that they would have to play.
I want to play them.
And
Utah.
I don't think they don't want to play
Phoenix.
I don't think the Lakers want to play Portland now going in to get into that game to get in.
True.
I really don't want to think. I really don't think they want to do that right now.
Utah don't scare me anymore.
Utah has suffered a major injury.
Yeah, I understand.
Jokic is basically trying to keep them afloat. They have
Nuggets,
shooting,
the Nuggets.
So that's always a good thing to keep them afloat.
Dallas don't scare me either.
The team that
we can beat Dallas,
I wouldn't want to play right now in the West would be the Phoenix Suns.
Yeah, true, facts.
I definitely wouldn't want to play them right now.
They're the number 1 team I want to play.
And they have moved from being just about out of the playoff contention into the number 2 seed in the West.
Utah don't scare me. Portland scares me a little bit. I'm not scared of
there's a lot of questions behind those statements from LeBron James. That statement from LeBron James, which leads you. You can go a lot of different ways with it.
Right.
And I just don't get it. Like I don't understand. If you look at the Eastern Conference, the top 3 teams have stayed that way the entire season. The Bucks have been in 3rd place all season long.
Right.
The Sixers and the Nets have been back and forth 1 and 2 all season long.
Real quick,
the rest of the division, the rest of the conference has been shaken up a lot throughout the last month or so.
Right.
So I think the play-in tournament has its good, where you have some teams that could have gotten in, but maybe just because of their record didn't get in. So now they have the opportunity to show that they belong and they can get in. But that Western has almost taken a change from 2 to 10. It's taken a change. The only constant that's been there is that the Utah Jazz have been number 1 seed all season long.
Call E. Tucker just chimed in. He loved this show. He tunes in every week. He says the NBA can't get it on the regular season together. The Sixers played San Antonio last night, fly out to play Chicago tonight, and fly back to Texas to play Houston.
Well, that's because it was a shortened season. It would be different if it hadn't been a pandemic and it had been a regular 82-game season. The logistics and all that travel would have been a lot better.
True.
I mean, that's still, to me, that's no excuse. I mean, I know it is a little unorthodox. But I don't look at that as an excuse. It's just the way that the shortened schedule was set up. The bottom line is the Sixers, and we just talked about their young players, and then we were talking about the Lakers in comparison, is the fact that they held it down when Joel was out and when Ben was out. They did what they were supposed to do. And, coaching plays a part in it too. I understand the NBA is about the players, it's entertainment, whatever, but coaching plays a part in it too. You see how the Sixers have come together as a unit. Like I said, the second unit is gaining more confidence. They're getting better together. So coaching is a little bit in it. And guys just have to have the wherewithal to understand what's at stake. The Lakers just had some pieces and brought in some pieces that maybe just didn't fit, and maybe they're starting to realize that with their descent from the top 5 in the West. Maybe they're starting to see that. The same thing with Brooklyn. They brought in pieces and were expected to basically run away with the East, and that hasn't been the case.
Harden still hurt. KD was out for
all 3 of those guys have been hurt multiple times.
Westbrook doing a little man, something wrong with him.
So, it's imperative that you that you bring in the right pieces.
Right.
They lost to Milwaukee yesterday.
Right.
Brooklyn did.
Milwaukee's a good team, though.
I'm not saying that they're not a good team, but again, like I said, all that talent that they brought in, and they were supposed to run away with the East. Now they're a half a game out of first place.
Yeah. Well, a lot of teams don't want to play them either. They're fully stripped.
Okay.
James Harden come back. He has to show me that he can play.
And it depends. But see, the difference is, and like Baldy has mentioned, the difference with them is the fact that it's going to come down to the talent and the gelling of those three stars.
Yeah.
Because you haven't seen them a lot together.
They was only together like 8-10 times.
You haven't seen them a lot together.
Right.
And we broke it down here before. You've got two of those stars that have won championships. One has won multiple championships. James Harden has not won a championship. He's been a scoring leader. He's been an MVP.
Right.
But he has not won a championship. All three of these guys are ball dominant.
Right. James Harden.
So it's going to come down to how they figure it out going into the playoffs.
Right.
And that's going to be a big issue for them.
Right.
Like, you look at Milwaukee, and you look at Milwaukee, and you understand Giannis and Chris Middleton are our two all-stars. Drew Holiday is the third piece, but he's a very good third piece.
Right.
Okay? And you flip and you look at the Sixers, Joel and Ben and Tobias are our stars.
Sure.
But you also have other key pieces. You got Dwight Howard that's having a very good season off the bench. You got Shake Milton that is developing into a sixth man, into a bigger role.
Should be a starter.
They brought in George Hill to manage and help manage late game issues on court to help out Ben Simmons. They've got a little bit of shooting in Seth Curry, Danny Green, and Furkan Korkmaz.
Right.
And again, these guys had an agenda, and they stuck together and played together and never faltered lower than the number 2 seed. Even when key guys were hurt, they never faltered lower than the number 2 seed. And again, on the flip side, just to call a spade, Milwaukee has been in, because of the talent level, Milwaukee's just been in third place. But they've been there, they've been steady the entire year. Like I said, the whole landscape of the West has changed from the beginning of the season, except for Utah, that's still the number 1 seed. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I don't know. Right now, the Sixers can win it all.
Yeah, Sean said he's going to win it all.
I think they have a very good shot. Now, anybody that goes into the playoffs has a shot. I think the Sixers have a very good shot at winning it all. But they have to stay focused. Like I said, they got to do what they got to do these next 8-9 games.
They did.
And beat these teams that they need to beat.
Yeah, Carl said Furkan amazingly is playing hard for some playoff minutes.
Yeah. Like I said, he's growing. Right. I mean, and it's, you can tell, this is where I said where the coaching comes in. There's a difference in the coaching staff where you had, at the end of the season last year, you had guys that were on this roster, that even guys that are no longer on this roster, who said in public and in the media that they were unsure of what they were supposed to do in certain moments of games or in key moments of games. Right. That is coaching. And again,
Doc and coach.
I like Brett Brown as a coach. He just, in my opinion, wasn't the coach for that group to get the best out of them and have them succeed.
He has days.
To where they are right now.
Doc has experience, and he played the game too.
Is a better coach, and again, it goes back to that word I said about a month ago. Accountability. Right. These guys are now being held accountable for everything that they do. Right. That's a difference in coaching styles, and a difference in the level of success that teams have progressing forward.
Sean says nobody's stopping Embiid. Our defense is
so we'll see what happens. Like I said, we've got 8-9 games left. Right. A little bit favorable for the Sixers. I think so. The Brooklyn has some tough games still left in there. They got Milwaukee again tomorrow. Okay. So
they will win that game.
We'll see.
They will, because
and they've got a couple other games. I mentioned them last week. They got a couple games down the stretch that could be some that could be some tough games for them to get through. So, moving along, last couple things before we get out of here. So we're going to stay with the NBA theme right now. And currently in the NBA, there are 5 full-time female referees. And it's a bit of a game changer for the NBA. There is Lauren Holtkamp Sterling, Simone Jelks, Ashley Moyer-Glake, Jenna Schroeder, and Natalie Sago, all who have taken lessons from Violet Palmer, who was the first female official in the NBA. And it's changing the game where you have, and Dee Cantor, were the first full-time women referees ever to work in the NBA. And that was back in '97. Okay, so now we're in 2021. And we have 5 full-time female NBA referees, which is changing the game. And kudos to them.
They're doing a great job
for breaking the barrier in a male-dominated field for them. Some of them even have had some encouragement from some of the long-standing male referees and some of the past male referees. So it's a beautiful thing that they can be involved in this situation and enlighten and inspire some younger ladies who are basketball fans. That they have another avenue where they can be attached to the game. Where they may not be skilled or athletic enough to make the league as a player in the WNBA or whatever, or not, or have a career-ending injury that may end their career earlier, when they can still have a love for the game and they want to be attached to the game. Here's another way, other than coaching, that they can be attached to the game, and the respect will be there due to Violet Palmer and Dee Cantor and these other 5 young ladies that I've just mentioned, that either have or are gaining the respect of their male counterparts and a lot of coaching staff, male coaching staff within the NBA. So it's a beautiful thing to see that, and I just hope that that door will open a little bit more to get some more women in, so that like I said, there's a love for the game on all facets.
How many female referees in the NFL? Wait, 2?
I think it's like 2.
They're doing a great job. So
hopefully, again, like I said, hopefully that will open the door, or keep the door open for some other females to get in, and again, like I said, be attached to the game in other ways than being a player or a coach.
Real quick, Dave, I know we don't have that much time. Sean Williams said, "I like the diversity of the referees, but the short Caucasian female ref is the worst."
Well, she's probably, I don't know which one exactly that is, but it's a learning process. And you have to understand that a lot of those women have started out just in like community leagues or minor leagues. There's a lot of female referees in the G League. The NBA is a different animal than women's NCAA, men's NCAA, and the G League. It's a difference in the NBA. You've got bigger, stronger, faster athletes that you have to try and keep up with. And it's a challenge, but I think they're doing a decent job.
I like it.
You know, I have had some questions, but I've had questions about refereeing in general over several sports for the last couple of years.
You used to be a referee, right?
I'm still currently certified as a referee. But that is, if you don't understand, that is a very, very difficult job. And like we talked a couple of weeks ago, that's the reason that they allegedly brought in a 3rd referee to help out in the NBA, because the game has changed so much and you need that extra set of eyes. There has been, I mentioned to you earlier about the case with Roberto Alomar, who has been removed from Major League Baseball due to sexual misconduct allegations. And I also mentioned at that moment, which seems to be the ongoing constant within a lot of these sports and things that are getting reported. There's been a more recent report of involving LSU, where they allegedly covered up more sexual misconduct and dating violence amongst the ranks there. It's getting out of control, it's getting out of hand, and I don't know what can be done to bring it to a head and get it handled, but it is out of control. Like the lawsuit that is alleged now involving LSU, it's a 124-page lawsuit. Okay, it's filed by, and this is covering all sports. It's not just specific to certain sports. The LSU case is filed by former tennis player, 3 former tennis players, and a former LSU athletic department student worker, and a senior at the University of LSU. The plaintiffs accused the university of prioritizing its reputation and football program over their safety and creating a culture of silence when it came to reporting Title IX offenses. They are seeking $5 million in damages plus court costs and permanent injunction requiring compliance with Title IX and recurring external audits of LSU's Title IX compliance. Okay. So it's a big issue with the sexual misconduct. It even goes back to Darius Geis, who was involved in a lawsuit. Okay, you know, this comes on the wake of him being banned by LSU. Okay, there's a young lady that says she was raped by him in 2016. He said the father told the coach, and he didn't want to believe it. Okay. It says she met Geis one night at a bar. She woke up the next morning in her apartment undressed with his wallet on her couch. So I don't understand what's going on with this, but there is an issue and there is a problem with these players and these officials with these sexual misconduct issues that are going on. And I also mentioned that Florida has made an amendment to institute the NIL law effective July 1st of this year. What that means is it's the name, image, and likeness bill or law for college athletes to earn a profit off of their own name, their image, and their likeness. They can even get an agent to help them financially, which I think is a long time. It's been a long time coming. I feel like this should have been instituted several years back. And again, I always say it reverts me back to the Ben Simmons documentary, where he made a statement, and I'm paraphrasing, where he says, I walk around the university, and ironically he was at LSU. I walk around the university and I have students and other people wearing my jersey, and the profits from those selling of those jerseys goes to the NCAA and to the school. Why can't I get something off of that? And it's my name. I'm the one that's made that name for the school. I'm the one that's wearing that uniform.
Cash cow.
And it's my name.
Cash cow.
And I should be able to benefit or profit from my own name,
10%.
my image, and my likeness. So there are other states that are in the process of approving this bill. Hopefully a lot more states will come into it within the next couple years, and it will be a great thing for these amateur college players, men and women, especially on the women's side, because they have to fight so much harder, you know, to get to that professional level and earn the money anywhere comparable to what the men get. And we talked about the disparity in the NCAA with the men's and the women's issues and all of that. It's the same thing with the pros as well. So hopefully they can start there at the college level and help these women get a better start and have a better future, and the men as far as as far as at the college level as well. So also the issues I have with the NCAA and then I'm coming to the point where they have this bill or this law that is being reviewed in the several states. It's been passed in a couple. It's being reviewed in several others. The simple fact that I understand that they label them as amateurs, but it's a multi-billion dollar business that's being run as far as the athletic programs at a lot of these major universities and institutions.
Money from you kids.
I mean, you look at March Madness, for example. One of the most anticipated events in sports every year.
Super Bowl probably number one.
Every year. Yeah. So there needs to be some compensation for these
kids,
young people, these young student athletes who sacrifice a lot. They are not held to the same standards as regular students on universities. Their schedules are very hectic.
They're like gods.
They do a lot. They bring in a lot of revenue for the university.
Definitely.
So they should be privy, in my opinion, they should be privy to some of that. They should be compensated for their work, the work that they do to bring in all this money for these universities. So hopefully that will change for the better.
Good.
Overall, again, getting back to the NBA and the playoff situation, I think this playoff thing it's good and bad. Like I said, the way that I would change it, it has its good things where, and it also is showing that it could be a good thing with the comment that LeBron James made either late last night or early this morning, where now he's upset about it and the person that fed should be fired. It gives you that incentive to push on. It gives teams a little bit of an edge now. Like I said with the Sixers, it's giving them an edge where they need to be in that number one seed. It's giving teams an edge on the other side as far as the West when we see how that landscape has changed dramatically from the beginning of the season, from the start of the season. It also has put players in positions that they are very uncomfortable in, hence the comments that LeBron James made. Coming off of winning the championship, being in the championship 10 straight years or whatever number it was. Now you're possibly looking at playing in a play-in tournament in a one and done situation. Puts you in a different situation, if you will. It makes it kind of strikes your ego a little bit, if you will, in that situation. Unfortunately, he did get injured, but that's why it's a team sport. You have other players that should be able to hold down the fort while you're out, be able to sustain some runs and keep you where you want to be. Ultimately, that didn't happen this year for them. So there's some frustration there. And the frustration is being let out in the comments and some of the comments that are being made. It also is some incentive for some of the teams that would have fought and just maybe a game or two didn't get in because they only picked the top 8 teams to make the playoffs. So it gives them some incentive, some inspiration that says, oh, we do this, we can get in, and we never know what happens in the playoffs. Playoffs is a whole different animal. Anything can happen in the playoffs. So with that being said, another great show in the books.
Yes, sir.
Again, the Morning Rush will be talking about foster children, foster care issues all week long. So feel free to call them in. They're on every morning, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 11. I will definitely be tuned in and possibly adding some insight where I can, when I can. Again, interview opportunities are available. Sponsorship opportunities are available. DM me on Instagram at sportsrat_D or message me in the group, Sports Rap Podcast on Facebook, or just send me an email with your serious inquiry
Feel free.
at sportsrap@yahoo.com. It is Monday, the beginning of a work week. It's pretty nice outside. I'm looking out and I see the sun. It's a little cloudy,
little rain,
but it's a little drizzle today.
Yeah.
Enjoy your Monday.
Yes, sir.
Get your week started. As we like to say, be great on purpose. You know where to find me. I just gave it to you. At sportsrap_D on Instagram and Twitter. Facebook, Sports Rap Podcast. The webpage you can check out, sportsrapradio.com. You can get the audio of the podcast if you missed anything this morning on iHeart, Spreaker, Google, and most of your podcast outlets.
Right.
You can catch video later this week on YouTube. Search Sports Rap TV. That's where you'll find us. You'll see us all week long on social media. Right back here on Monday, 11 a.m. And again, lastly, like I said, be great on purpose. We'll see you all week on social media and next week right here in studio. Talk to you all. Enjoy your day.
Straight on out. Go straight out.